My name is Desislava Karaasenova, and today I have the honor and pleasure of welcoming Professor Vеселин Поповски to Sofia University St. Климент Охридски. Professor Popovski is Vice Dean of the Jindal Global Law School and founding director of the Center for the Study of the United Nations at OP Jindal Global University in India. He served as senior academic officer at the United Nations University in Tokyo from 2004 to 2014. Prior to that, he taught at the University of Exeter. He is also a former Bulgarian diplomat who served in Sofia, New York, and London. Professor Popovski has an extensive publication record, including 25 books and numerous articles in peer-reviewed journals. Professor Popovski is here with us in his capacity as the recipient of the Transform for Europe Visiting Professorship, jointly awarded by Sofia University St. Kliment Охридски and the University of Silesia in Katowice, Poland. This is a distinction that recognizes his scholarly excellence and contribution to international academic collaboration. Before we start our conversation on the topic of today's podcast, Professor Popovski, you were involved with the University of Silesia in 2025 as a visiting professor. Could you tell us about the activities you undertook there, your engagement with students, academic staff, and research initiatives or collaborations you were involved in?
Yes, first of all, thank you to be invited to the Sofia University Kliment Охридски. Always a pleasure to be with you here in Sofia. Indeed, last year in 2025, I received a research professorship with the University of Silesia in Katowice, and I had a very fruitful visit there over several days. Met many faculty members, mostly faculty, who are very interested to see collaborations, potential collaboration between my university in India and the University of Silesia. We went through a very comprehensive and detailed discussion about our teaching, pedagogy, about our research, publications, administration, and how the two universities face the challenges of the modern era, including artificial intelligence, and how does this affect every single part of the work of the universities. And also I met students. I gave occasional lecture face-to-face during my visit with two groups of students, one undergraduate and one postgraduate, but after that I was also invited to teach online, which I do since October. In fact, I have a lecture next week, which is the final one, and then an examination of, again, one group is on postgraduate level, another group on undergraduate level. Very curious. These universities in Poland are extremely curious to find new partners in India, but also to learn from my experience about India, about the work we are doing, and I'm very happy with that development.
You are a visiting professor at Sofia University now and are conducting lectures for students and academic staff on the challenges of the international order. Could you tell us about the collaborative research you have been involved in at our university?
Oh yes, it is tremendously pleasant experience over the last 2 years already, collaborating with researchers in the University Kliment Охридски. I participated in a project led by Martin Belov, Professor Belov, who initiated a book project on what he called dark constitutionalism. I also engaged my Indian assistant from Jindal, and she wrote a chapter, separate chapter from mine, on climate change. I did a chapter on terrorism, and the book is just published virtually those days. And it's a very successful book project. I've been also talking to the other faculty involved in the project, Daniel Smilov, very often on the topic of political and democratic development. I've been in touch with all the professors in the project, collaborating with Professor Maria Stojcheva on several already joint publications that are also forthcoming. And it was very successful 2025. I've got a lot of publication. I had several visits, conferences. We are collaborating on another conference coming in July in Portugal, Lisbon. So happy to... By the way, I left Bulgaria when I was 35, and now it's the first project since the last, let's say, almost 30 years that it engages Bulgarian universities. Really pleasure to be back and to work together with people in Bulgaria.
Okay, thank you. I'm very glad to hear this. Today we will discuss European values and their role in addressing the challenges Europe faces. This topic is important to the Transform for Europe University Alliance because by embedding European values in academic activities and cooperation, alliances contribute to a stronger, more integrated Europe and reinforce the role of universities as drivers of democratic societies. European university alliances are seen as a way to promote a strong European identity that is rooted in shared values, like democracy, human rights, and academic freedom. Here I should mention that this conversation is supported by the Summit Research Project of Sofia University St. Kliment Охридски, which is financed by the European Union through the National Recovery and Resilience Plan of the Republic of Bulgaria. It is part of the work of the European Values and Social Challenges Research Group, where the focus is on value-based approaches to explaining and understanding social challenges. Let me start with my first question. How did the European Union shape the norms and values established by the Enlightenment?
Excellent question, because it gives us a bit of an historical background and perspective. In fact, the Enlightenment, led by political philosophers, Voltaire, Montesquieu, Rousseau, Bacon in the United Kingdom and others, Thomas Paine, shaped, as you mentioned, the values. These existed historically. We should say that these are not born by the European Enlightenment. All of those existed historically. We can go back to ancient Greeks and what Plato and Aristotle wrote about the Republic, about the representation of... Actually, I had a book called Democracy in the South, looking how the idea of representation of people in government existed everywhere, not only in Europe, but also in Asia, Africa, Latin America, a long time ago, with different names, with different developments, in different shapes and formats. But what the Enlightenment did is actually putting those into the center of attention, into the Constitution. And they become rule of law, as we put it today. Those constitutions were the first to put human rights as an obligation of the governments towards the citizens. So that's why it is so important. And that notion that governments need to take measures to protect and promote human rights goes back to those first constitutions, the Déclaration des droits de l'homme, the American Constitution. They shaped the idea of citizenship, representation, democracy, and human rights. And here I would like a bit to make a little correction. I wouldn't say European values, because if we ask what are the Asian values, or the American values, or the African values, they will be the same, as I mentioned. It will be the rule of law, democracy, freedom, liberty, happiness, and everything else. So there are no European values, as there are no Asian values and American values. These are global values. These are universal values, but implemented in Europe in the 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st century. So for that matter, I would like even to say we should talk about universal values implemented in the best, if you want, project, which is the European Union since its establishment in 1950s.
How can then European university alliances contribute to fostering shared values?
Absolutely crucial, because this is the barrier, those who care about the values at the university, the education. Obviously, we are talking about young people, students who come to universities exactly to gain the knowledge and the skills necessary to pursue their future careers. And obviously, universities shape the minds of those young people, opening opportunities and windows of chances for their future careers. And no better place for value creation and also value development and implementation as the universities. Our tasks here is exactly to make the young people ethical, moral, to understand the differences between information and misinformation, not to be seduced by conspiracy theories, to think reasonably and properly. And how universities shape the values? Exactly by teaching students to follow those values, I will put it this way. And something, and that goes back to the project we are discussing, Transform for Europe, but also Summit, is the collaboration between universities. It's very crucial because sometimes if we are just guided by our own policies and our own code of conduct, and we don't know what happens in the rest of the world, it's insufficient. We need to share the methods of teaching, the methods of research, the outcomes of the research. The joint project between universities is the best part of those collaborations, because within Europe, but also outside Europe, and now I think our European Union is very interested to continue to develop those collaborations, not only between European universities, but also groups of European university with university in Asia, America, and Africa. So the next step will be to make that joint research, publications, teaching, student exchanges, faculty exchanges, collaborations global. And I hope, exactly as I said, the values are universal, but they exist in cultural environments, in regional environments. But going back to how they need to be promoted among the young people is also a task of all universities around the world. So not only Europe, it's global, it's universal task.
Thank you. What is the role of European university alliances then in addressing the challenges Europe faces today?
Also very crucial. It's extremely important because we see one of the challenges how exactly the current United States administration is against what we are doing, against the universities, against the science even. And Europe is resisting that, not only on political level, but also on educational, also on the level of science, reaffirming how crucial it is to still lead every policy based on the science, especially to give the example of climate change. Without, we heard this morning that actually Donald Trump withdrew the money from the IPCC and from the United Nations Fund for climate change, which is really another terrible news, because without science, how can policymakers shape policies, put targets, achievement, and make progress? It's a good question. So to address the challenges, we need collaborations. And those collaborations necessarily involve universities, because universities are the places where policy starts. Because based on research, based on data, on evidence, on recommendation out of those scientific reports, then the policymakers can take those and shape long-term policies. So I think that link is crucial, absolutely important between universities and the policymakers. And nobody is better than those consortia. You mentioned the European Consortium of Universities. There are many.
Yes, many.
Such, but also the European Union funded projects help to strengthen this existing multiple universities collaboration.
Okay, thank you very much for your insightful perspective. It is very much appreciated. We would like to encourage our listeners to follow us. And thank you very much, Professor
My pleasure
Popovski.
always to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Desislava. Thank you.